Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
Telling the president.
Did you acknowledge that there were no votes changed in 2020?
All I can acknowledge is what the intelligence shows, right? I only know the intelligence community has zero evidence that someone has flipped, that a foreign power flipped a vote in 2020, 22, or 24.
And you have you're able to acknowledge
We're not through all the documents.
You're able to acknowledge that Venezuela has not tampered with voting machines in the United States?
No, the intelligence is very clear. They did it on their own machines. Why is it important that they did it on their machines? Their machine protocols are the same as America. Why? Because for a long time they did exactly.
And so the 2020 election was in fact the results as we, the American public.
I'm still researching, so let me. This is the first.
But there's no intelligence.
Not yet.
He's got to go.
There is no intelligence that the election would have said that Donald Trump was president.
The president said that tonight. Thanks,
There's nothing better than a guy admitting that there is no intelligence, only he's talking mostly about himself. We're going to go through a lot of things. And I am joined by my friend, Dave Clements, Professor Dave Clements, who, by the way, he might not agree with everything that I say. He'll be the yang to the yang.
But hey, Joe,
how are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
It's good to be here. It's good to have you on. You look a little relaxed. You look like you're relaxed.
I've had a long 6 years.
Yeah, me too. It's been crazy. And, so before I go into some of the posts that we have and things that we have, tell me about how you feel about Thursday.
It really depends on how you see the president. I see the president as holding all the cards, and if he is working in concert with John Solomon for strategic incremental releases, then I don't begrudge John Solomon doing what he's doing. However,
there's always a however.
If people don't share that confidence that the president knows that the machines are rigged and that are absolutely involved, and let me just put this out there. We know that votes have been flipped from open source intelligence, from the audits that have been done. So if you listen to the question that's being presented to John, it was within the intelligence community documents. Okay, so what do we know about the intelligence community documents or the intelligence communities? They're corrupt. So why would we expect to find something when Bill Barr and no one else cared to look, because they're part of the problem? So perhaps we can be charitable if we understand that John Solomon is being used to roll out things incrementally.
They would. Why would they pick a guy? I mean, and this is where I get to the people around President Trump. Why would they pick a guy that has historically been resistant and stands, shoulder to shoulder with another guy I don't particularly like, and talking about, not the machines or kind of trying to get people to go around the machines. There was 2023 that we were at the Miles Guo deal, and he sat at that table, and his comments were, "There's nothing wrong with the machines. There's no proof. There's no evidence." I wanted to punch that dude right in the face. Right?
I was there. I remember.
But he ran his mouth until I stood up, and then I was like, this guy.
Yeah, well, it really depends on whether you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders or my shoulders or our shoulders to solve the problem. And I think there's an in-between. So where I'm coming from is, okay, I know from my expertise on this subject that you can't patch the machines.
Yeah.
They are designed, we know this. And so what gets me a little bit more triggered than John Solomon doing whatever he's doing on a hot mic is that Mark Wayne Mullen and himself have floated the idea that patches are a thing that you could conceivably do to fix our elections, and that's utter BS. And so, look, I've got a responsibility as someone who understands the problem to say that's BS, can't be done, and I'll shout down the lie. But again, I'm looking at the president as someone who's smarter than 99.9% of the people out there. And when he says he's got it all, I don't think that his speech, I think it was strategic in what he shared. And what he did is he stirred the hornet's nest. And there's two things that happened. Number one, he put a giant spotlight on the legacy media being complicit in sedition, treason, and he let the whole entire world see that they weren't going to carry his remarks. So what he's done is he's created the perfect foundation for an emergency broadcast signal that takes them off the air, and he has unfettered access to the American people, because no one's going to be able to suggest that somehow they would have carried a future speech when they've in fact didn't carry it at all. Two, I think this is an introduction to the normies, not the people that know. And he's got people that are exposing themselves left and right. So this is very, very reminiscent of 2020, when the media said, okay, we've got to get into gaslight mode. And we can all feel it, like from 24/7 news coverage about just the big lie, the big lie, the big lie. It is serving as a remarkable tool again to awaken the American people that this reaction is so over the top. It's so bizarre that it's getting people to talk about what needs to be talked about, which is the most important thing. They're saving the elections for last. You'll notice that Trump did not pull any punches about describing these machines as rigged. So there's the silver lining. He was all out there. And so the thing that I'm thinking of, if I'm the president and I'm the commander in chief of the military and I've got access to Space Force, the NSA, everything else, when someone says we got it all, to me, that doesn't mean we've got what Joe Oltmann has and what David Clements has. It's you can get a FISA warrant and get every single cyber point of intrusion from the NSA right then and there. And I think he's had it. So this is another one of those baits, landmines, where you guys can overcommit to your position that you think, I don't have anything. Because what we did see was a ton of discussion about vulnerabilities, but not enough about, no. I want to hear about the facts of the exploitation of those vulnerabilities. And so the media is running wild with this narrative. Yeah, you're just talking about vulnerabilities. We already knew about this for 6 years. And that's legitimate criticism. The only way that Trump is going to be able to overcome that criticism if he goes, okay, in the next D-class, the next episode of exposure, someone comes forward and says, okay, this is what happened on this date.
So I mean, look, I want to believe that that's true, and obviously I have a lot of respect and I have a lot of confidence in President Trump. But let's be honest, it hasn't always worked out, and I don't want to go so far white-pilled that I become foolish to the idea that something bad could happen and that he's not paying attention to it because of the people around him. What gives me hope is what Stephen Miller said, that the leftists they're terrorists, and that the left is, and so he's dropping baby bombs in other areas that gives them authority that nobody's questioning really. They're kind of laughing at him, mocking him for some of the things that he said. But it's hard to ignore the number of players that are working as antagonists against President Trump in so many different ways. I mean, you talk about social media, including X, which now is on a mission to support. I put up something about John Sullivan, and they said, "Oh, you violated the harassment." I'm like, the guy's a journalist. I just said that he was a CIA shill, and all of a sudden it was like, we're going to limit your visibility. So there's just things that I think are happening right now that, in 6 years, you've gotten more zen and more patience. I've gotten a whole lot less.
Well, I mean, look, I don't know what the problem is, whether he's CIA or a shill or both. And I want to understand you, because when you bring that up, you've got these different factions, and you'll have Patrick Byrne on the show, right?
Yeah.
Self-admitted CIA.
Yeah, at least he's honest.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. Gary Bernstein,
Yeah.
former CIA.
Yeah.
So is the problem that we've got people that have CIA backgrounds talking about this, commenting it, or is it because we don't like what Solomon is messaging? Now, I've already said I don't think the patches are correct. I don't think that the discussion of giving air or life to the idea that there's nothing in the intelligence reports that show that actual vote flipping took place. We want people to be more forceful in the reality that you and I experience. And I think if you look at the 40,000 foot view, John Solomon to me is still on team good guy. It's just a question of when are we going to have the expose of all exposés where, he can play kind of the fool for a while. Because even Trump, to some degree, has to play like he's in the dark. I mean, for case in point, they ran everything in his speech across the intelligence officials. And Trump is saying, I'm finding out for the first time now about this deception. I don't believe that for a second. That's its own performative white hat theater if Trump is who we think he is. So there's elements of this where there's PSYOP baked on top of PSYOP on top of PSYOP, and we're getting a kind of veneer of reality. And I'll highlight my point here, Joe, is, if you're asked me, has Patrick Byrne been a net benefit to the election integrity movement? I would say yes. I've seen enough fruit over 6 years. But there's also things about the book that Ralph Pizzula put out. It's not right. Like, there's a lot of people that I respect, like Brian Lupo and Colonel Watkins and people that I've read the book. It's more or less right. But there's things in there that they get wrong. And it's kind of reminiscent of The Deep Rig, a movie that got it mostly right, but got things wrong. So there's like this rush to create a narrative. And the narrative, as I understand it, is that really the three musketeers of Bernstein, Byrne, Pizzullo, Martine Rodil, that team somehow saved the 2024 election. Now, if you're asking me if I believe that, I don't. Okay, I've got my reasons for it. That doesn't mean they're not patriots and they're not doing the Lord's work in getting to the bottom of it. But even there is an op that seems to inhabit something that's real. I don't question the fact we've got Smartmatic whistleblowers. I don't deny the fact that there was sworn testimony. I don't deny the fact that Patrick played an instrumental role in funding and getting the truth about the machines out there. I don't deny the fact that Emerald Robinson and Lindell TV have been one of the main shows that have been put out there to talk about the machines in a good way. But there's elements of the entire narrative that I'm like, okay, this is where I'm going to stop. It's like PCAPs, right? Up to a point, everyone seems to have their narrative that they're running with. And, I'm not satisfied 100% with really anyone except for my own version of reality. So I'm trying to back off and not lose my mind. So when you say, hey, I've got the Zen, and maybe you don't, I don't know how to operate in this space without just sitting there going, okay, who knows? But when it comes to prescriptions, I'm going to maintain that the machines are bad. I'm going to praise people when they help me get rid of them. And to the degree that I'm not exercising friendly fire, I'm gonna hold on to my powder. And that's kind of been my approach. Doesn't mean I'm always right. Doesn't mean that I always do that.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's been plenty of times that you feel a little bipolar.
Yeah.
I mean, at times, because you go home and in the silence of the day where you're sitting there, it's hard not to be like, nothing seems right.
Yeah.
You almost get this feeling as if that something is just right around the corner. It's an uneasy feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every time John Solomon talks with his lispy,
Don't do it.
his lispy voice.
Don't do it.
So I'm the authority of everything, and I'm gonna call if something's coming to happen. Nothing ever happens. Like, he has been wrong so many times that literally, it's like calling a fight and saying after the fact that Conor McGregor is going to win. and he doesn't win
Well, there's a
because he
little
didn't win.
there's a little bit of Chicken Little, right? Like the indictments are coming, or the arrests are coming, and look, I get it. You can only say that so long before people tune you out, and he's risked that. But if his job is to consistently throw out the conversation or put it in front of the American people in an incremental fashion, I can see a method to the madness. Doesn't mean that I like it. I wish that everyone just came out swinging about just the truth. Like, why do we have to buy into this binary narrative that we can't talk about the machines because that might demoralize people from engaging into another fake and fraudulent election? I think you can chew gum, walk, all those things at the same time and talk about machines. So we're different from Conservative Inc. in that respect. Having said that, this comes down to an article of faith that Trump has a vested interest in winning this war. And if it means that it looks like he's losing little battles here and there, I can live with that as long as he's going to come through when it matters. And I think he set the stage beautifully. Right now, when I say the hornet's net has been kicked, everyone is on high alert on what do you mean? And so you're starting to get reports out of ODNI, Mark-Wayne Wolin talking about the canceling of fund, the prosecution. They have created through that address the mens rea, the knowing requirement that is needed for criminal prosecution, so that there's no one in America that's part of the election cartel that can say they didn't know because the president of the United States went on TV and told them, this is what you need to know, this is what happened, and if you participate in this scheme, we're coming for you. So some of the messaging from Mark-Wayne Wolin on the patches drives me crazy. But I like the talk. I like the discussion about we're going to take your funding if you don't comply, which is the rigged machines tied to HAVA.
Yeah.
And enforcement of the executive orders.
So I put out a post yesterday. I was just doing an analysis on what it costs us for paper and to create paper ballots that are just tied back, kind of like you have on money. You have some sort of serial number that ties back. And so you can't technically figure out who voted for those. You could just tell that it ties back to the individual. And if you needed to get to the bottom of it, you could, right? This is how in some states they catch people committing fraud, voting more than once, things like that. But I just went through the financials part in a couple key states. And I was like, okay, if we paid people $100 an hour, paper ballots in person, have to have an ID, paper poll books, making sure that you use the information that you have currently available to yourself, we would spend 91% less on our elections than we do today. 91%. 9% of what paying everyone $100 an hour for 2 weeks before the election and 2 weeks after the election. $100 an hour. That's $4,000 a week. Who wouldn't volunteer for that? Would you volunteer for that? I mean, I wouldn't, but there are people that would volunteer for $100 an hour, right?
Yeah.
All right. So given that part and the fact that they say you can patch the machines, which being in tech, you can't. You can't patch bad architecture that's designed to actually defraud the people, right? So I sit here and I listen to people like John Solomon. I listen to other people that are talking, and at the same time, this convenient rhetoric that goes out there that says, "I've saved the world in 2024."
Yeah.
But we knew about Elon Musk. We knew about some of the other people that were involved in 2024. Somebody pressed buttons.
Yeah, and the reason why I depart from the very convenient narrative of three men saving our elections, especially when part of the story is that they're in exile in Switzerland and everything else, is, look, if Trump is who I think he is, you got to have the military involved for something like that, for it to be legal, because then you're getting into areas of cyber violations of the law. You're telling me that civilians were part of taking down servers in Serbia. That's criminal behavior unless it's legally justified. And so this gets into my long-held position of continuity of government, that why would you expect Biden to do the right thing or the military under Biden? You wouldn't. But if you've got hardened military that's loyal to their oath and loyal to the Constitution, that's way more plausible
Yeah.
on shutting down servers internationally tied with all of the geopolitical dynamics of China. And this is another thing that's key. Notice that as hard as Trump went after communist China, you notice how there's virtually no blowback in the international relationship between China and
At
Trump
all. None.
at all, which leads me to believe that you probably have insiders that are working with Trump from the CCP. I'm not saying that there are good elements to it, but to the degree that they can come forward and say, yeah, we did this. Then all of a sudden, the legacy media is in a terrible position that it's like, okay, who can we listen to? Even the terrorists themselves are admitting to taking part in the coup of 2020. And as long as Trump prevails against his enemies, he'll use that as ammunition.
Yeah. So, but you have to ask yourself the question of timing, right? I mean, look, President Trump has done everything at the last minute. No question. No question at the last minute. He just seems to fall into a good environment. So there is a little bit of theatrics to this, like TV, made for TV. Could be a movie. But we only have 2 years left.
Yeah, so you got to have faith that he's going to pull the trigger when it matters. So perfect example, the first attack of Iran's nuclear infrastructure, we find out that even Tulsi Gabbard wasn't read in. So the head of ODNI did not know about the strike. So Trump has the ability to be radio silent and execute based on his own plenary authority as commander-in-chief. He has demonstrated he's willing to do that. The beauty of Trump is notice how he doesn't talk about the things that we talk about.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to give it undue attention. He doesn't want to telegraph that, by the way, this is the phase that we are in the exposure campaign and going after people. He has been methodical on let's debunk the Mueller hoax. Let's debunk Crossfire Hurricane. Let's debunk the impeachment hoax. He has brought the American people along and has vindicated himself. And there have been concessions from the media about the Very Fine People hoax, Virginia, racism, to the point where none of that has any impact or effect on him. And he's leaving the most complex issue that's the most difficult to explain because the very machines are built to cover their own tracks, where you've got so much buy-in over the exposure of corruption by the time you get to the election issue. At this point, the people aren't going, okay, please give me the PhD course from a tech CEO and a former law professor. It's like, we get it. It's corrupt. So I think what he's doing is there's a bit of prophetic, I think, utterance going on where he is highlighting the cluster cuss that is our elections. Don't be surprised if the shit hits the fan this midterm and everything that he says happens on such a spectacular scale that the American people are saying, we get it, declare the national emergency. So what happens then? You have an EBS. Why would you do that? Because CBS won't carry it, because Fox won't even carry it. He is laying the groundwork, not from the standpoint of taking brute force and just rubbing the enemy's face in it. He's bringing the American people along to where these ideas are organically being seeded. They're letting the American people have the debate, like we're having the debate right now about John Solomon, talking about patches. That's got to penetrate the cultural zeitgeist on elections, where 2 months from now, everyone's talking about, what do you mean you can patch this? I think the American people now are smart enough that we've carried the day that you can't patch Dominion. You can't patch what Eric Coomer's bringing, right?
I mean, but he's gotten away with it for so long. And, you talking about Eric Coomer specifically, he got caught lying in every one of his depositions. One just completely contradicted the other. And remember, Eric Coomer is the one that went to Fulton County, Georgia, and testified against President Trump and lied there. I mean, he lied. He thought when he lied in that trial or in that grand jury, he thought that it was over.
Yeah, but let me ask you
this. He thought it was over. He thought President Trump was going to go to prison.
Joe, if you're Eric Coomer, or you're Eric Coomer's attorneys,
they're just as bad.
I'm just saying, after the address, do you think that they're feeling less heat or more heat?
More heat.
Okay,
more heat.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And that means Mark Elias is feeling it. Everyone's feeling it because they're so off balance. They're going, what is this guy doing? The anticipation, they're going to be making mistakes. So, at the end of the day, I was in law enforcement. You start with what you have and you build your case for beyond a reasonable doubt, not for probable cause, not just for arrest. You release what is going to flush people out. And if you want to give a giant news conference on vulnerabilities, that's fine, and start doing the arrest. But when it's time to meet the burden of proof of beyond a reasonable doubt, you got to have a representative from the CIA, from the NSA, from Cyber Crimes Division saying, on this date, this cyber intrusion happened here. And they have that's what I'm saying. They have that. Trump has that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I absolutely believe that. And in large part, I think that's what drives me. That's what I mean. And I said this yesterday. I did just a live video last night because I kept getting phone calls. And they're like, Joe, what's going on? Mark Elias comes up a lot because he puts out this stuff saying, oh, President Trump, he just got up there and he lied and talked about this stuff. And all these people that said they lied. And, like Hickenlooper and, Downline. I mean, Shifty Shift, everyone, right? And they said the same thing over and over again, that the mail-in ballots, right? And President Trump is lying. And so I turned it around a little bit and I was like, well, what proof do you have that he's lying? He released millions of documents, which we're trying to sift through right now. And boy, it's a lot. Mm-hmm. One of the issues that I have with those documents, by the way, is that they're heavily redacted. You'll have documents that have like 6 words on 4 documents. And you're like, well, what'd you release this for? It says the. Everything else is redacted.
Well, you also have the burn bags that keep giving. Like, oh, we found another secret place. Look, I don't buy that. I don't think anyone with common sense should buy that. But again, it provides a narrative tool for them to engage in this warfare that all of a sudden we found something that Obama gave the order to burn and they're so incompetent they didn't do it. And Trump says, I don't know what it is, but I've
got these burn bags. They're the best burn bags ever.
So this is what's beautiful. The black hats know that's not true.
Yeah.
The white hats know that's not true.
Yeah. The
American people, though, are being brought along for the ride, and it's just plausible for them to play this very, very elegant game of chess. And it's frustrating for people that can see through it. And that's part of the frustration is I don't want to partner with CIA shills or otherwise on that. I think people are confused enough. But having said all that, if Trump is concerned about his legacy, concerned about his safety, concerned about his family's safety, and is truly a patriot, which I believe he is, all of those things, then when you go dark, when you have an emergency broadcast signal, when you have to arrest, they have to happen at the same time. You don't give like 10 days of clarity only to let the liars at CNN come back and occupy the airwaves. You've got to do it all at once. And history's going to have to look at this as something that we gave you every chance to do the right thing. Every chance. So I think that's part of the patience thing that's so frustrating, was just get the bastards. He had to reverse brainwash the American people, and it took this long.
Yeah, I mean, we can't get everybody in the room together, right, and get to a place where we have consensus. And most of that has to do with the level of sheer intelligence for what we're dealing with, understanding the architecture, understanding the systems, understanding what mail-in ballots can do, the bloated voter rolls, how the systems operate, even understanding how it's transferred from a Dominion or ES&S Smartmatic to Seidel to Edison, then going to the general public. So there's a lack of understanding for even in the states, like that some votes are counted in rural districts, they're counted locally, but most of, say, a Colorado or a New Mexico goes to a centralized counting facility where you have no transparency at all and no ability to have visibility at what's going on there. You could drop 1 million ballots in, you could make 1 million ballots that don't even exist become real inside of that system, right? But it becomes more real for me, and I think the frustration that I feel is that we've lived this for 6 years. And in 6 years, David, we've learned a lot. But we knew from day one that we had to learn about the systems in order to be able to articulate that to the general public.
Yeah.
And I don't see that same sort of energy. I don't see that same sort of institutional thirst for knowledge existing on our side. And I think that's the thing that scares me the most is it's not President Trump that I'm worried about. It's not even the people in his cabinet that I'm worried about. It's that even if they notice it, like the Heritage Foundation publicly said there's nothing wrong with the elections. Yet I sat there in front of someone that works high up at the Heritage Foundation and they go, Joe, everything you said was right.
Mhm.
And I go, okay, so why can't you say anything? They go, we're in Washington. They'll
Yeah.
Seth Rich us. He literally said they'll Seth Rich us.
Yeah, look, I think this comes down to, again, it always comes down to this article of faith. And
Uh-oh.
if you're,
Article of faith.
but look, you fancy yourself a poker player. When
Yeah,
you're
pretty good poker player.
when you're ready to lay down your hand, you want to do maximum damage for maximum gain. And you don't lay down and you don't telegraph anything until it's the right time to do it. So it to me, it's as simple as that. When you've got let's not look past the victories. Last time I checked, Tina Peters was
Is out.
in the Oval Office with the president. Last time I checked, the truth post that accompanied that talked about the rigged machines, not just ballots, but the rigged machines. And it came from the commander in chief. Last time I checked, John Bolton not only was arrested, but pled and is convicted under the Espionage Act. I mean, we just walk past the fact that the former national security advisor who has dirt on everyone is playing for the Trump admin if he wants to avoid jail time. There's going to be strings attached. It's not just a fine. He only gets the benefit of no jail time if he sings like a bird. We walk past the fact that Delta Force extracted Maduro, the bookkeeper, from Venezuela. We look past the fact that the IRCG, a proxy of the City of London, which basically bankrolled our rigged election infrastructure, is being gutted and they're almost out of money. Are you kidding me? These are victories that we have never, ever experienced in our entire lifetimes. And now we're on the point now where we're just like, please just get to the hanging part. And I want to enjoy this. Like Trump's very patient, but you're seeing the squirming.
Would you like some tea?
like don't look past all of these never before seen victories where even the endorsement of Mike for governor in Minnesota, like all the stuff that we know aside, like this is driving the radical left insane. Let's enjoy it. And if we've been brought this far and we're still having this conversation, Joe, I have enough faith that we're going to get to the hanging days. And that's all I want.
Mean, look, and I said this, but it's very difficult when you have people like John Solomon, because President Trump doesn't see everything that goes across the thing. So I put this post up. I woke up, I put up one before that said he was just a lying shill because I think he's a CIA shill. And the CIA part doesn't bother me because there's good guys and bad guys. But the one thing that carries through most of the CIA is nihilism. I mean, there's a nihilistic view for most people that are in the CIA, right? But I put this post up. So I woke up this morning, John Solomon is still a lying shill who was sent to stop us from having free and fair elections. Don't tell me he spoke up for J6ers. Oh, so did a lot of people. But in order to convince you there's nothing to see, they send trash like John and Joe Vaughn. These complete trash. The machines with the code and the lack of transparency stole your voice, slave. I put that up because I got to listen to some of the other things that he said that drove me crazy. Because if you come to me and tell me something about law, I listen. If you tell me something about doing canvassing or an audit, I listen. Why? Because you've done it before. You've been there, right? He's never done anything other than talk in front of a screen, right? And lift it out.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. I think for whatever reason, he was chosen or selected to be a conduit for exposure. Now, if you go to one end and say, well, that's only at the behest of bad actors and the darkest parts of the intelligence agencies, like, you can go there. All I'm saying is I have to hold out the alternative that John Solomon is getting communicated to by both Trump officials and perhaps shadow agencies or shadow elements that are trying to get intel from him as well. It's a hell of a game to play if you think you can play cute with the President of the United States. And so what I'm saying is, like, I don't begrudge you saying, hey, John Solomon, I'm calling bullshit over this idea that no votes were flipped. And I think you need to be the one that vocalizes that. I had my own post. It was a little more diplomatic than yours, but the idea of my concern of a limited hangout being created by virtue of this idea that patches can somehow neutralize the danger of using these rigged machines. And I identify John Solomon in the post. But, look, we're not going to know whether or not there's real fruit to John Solomon until there's accountability. And until then, we're going to have these conversations. But if we're talking about an absolute fidelity to the truth, and I'm tired of someone, kind of giving us piecemeal truth, which is the definition of a limited hangout, that's why I bring up Byrne and Bernstein and Pizzullo and O'Deal for different reasons.
Yeah.
I think they're more accurate in describing the problem of the rigged machines, but there's also a little bit of misdirection on the causality of the November 24th intervention. There had to have been an intervention for Trump to get in. I could see why that narrative actually serves the Trump admin, because they don't want people saying, what do you mean Trump had the ability to interfere with the elections? They'll certainly run with that if they could. So I can see it from all of these different angles. But if it's all about just the truth, it's like, well, don't feed me this BS that 3 people saved the 2024 election. Like, are you kidding me? Based on what we know about the election,
It's not even possible.
it's not possible. But I don't begrudge them for it. So I'm just trying to hold out just a little bit of a broader view on Solomon, saying, okay, if you're playing a role, and this is about slow walking the evidence, but it's for the purposes of the timing established by Trump, we'll give you a mulligan and an apology now in the future. But don't get mad at us when we tell you patches are bullshit. Don't get mad at us when we tell you the machines have demonstrated flipping, like in ways that are well documented. Surely you can't be that dumb, right?
But he doubled down on it. I mean, after he got attacked, after John Solomon got attacked, he acted like he was completely oblivious. I mean, let me show you what I mean. Here's the soundbite. Go ahead and play this Solomon soundbite.
We had a glass chin. We knew our election machines are vulnerable. We didn't patch them. We knew 230 million Americans' voter data was stolen by Chinese spies. Now think about this. When Equifax had the 147 million person breach 10 years ago, it was one of the biggest stories, one of the biggest data breaches. And this is larger than that. A foreign enemy has the ability now to register American voters, and that is something that concerned the Intelligence Committee. Thousands of pages of reports that we went through. We put several hundred of them out tonight. But if all of us are worried about when our bank account gets compromised, we should be just as worried when our voter file gets compromised, because it may affect a future election.
So what's the president's next move here tonight?
He laid out several steps. One of them is for tomorrow, the Homeland Security Secretary to begin briefing reporters at the White House on what the machine fixes are. Patches, very simple things that will fix those machines. By the way, the first people to raise concerns about the very patches we're talking about, 2 Democratic senators back in 2019. But these are going to get fixed now, 7 years later.
He gave the Democrats a little bit of kudos there, right? I mean, make sure that.
So I see this as kind of like a tourniquet.
His neck, or where were we saying?
No, there's a tourniquet being applied to CBS.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so
I was just
he is forcing them to come more in alignment with the worldview of vulnerabilities are real.
Yeah.
For us, it's like, no, it's not just vulnerabilities are real; they've been exploited, right? And we're going there, but to the degree that now he's on CBS occupying their airwaves. And they're having to nod their head, okay, and they're having to move their own goalpost. Now there was also a report of a gentleman that was like, yeah, we've found out in the declassification that there's one machine provider that has been demonstrated to be subverted. Now, it's likely the suite of products that was out of Puerto Rico. If I had to bet my money, because I can vouch for the fact that I know that those machines were secured, tested, and they found exploits of those machines. So now they've had to back off from the idea there's no evidence, there's no issues to, there's a provider, a machine provider, it's Dominion, and they're going to have to make concessions. So at some point they keep losing their credibility bit by bit until, what do you know? There's another D-class. Trump takes the stage again and says, this is what happened. And Solomon can then go on TV with a straight face going, new report out of the White House, new report from Trump, that in fact there was an exploitation of this. That's what I think is going to happen. I don't think John Solomon's going to have a choice on which information he reports on when Trump is the source, or the intelligence communities, or participating in the D-class.
Yeah, but so I can't ever argue with you, because the fact is that you kind of think through the problem all the way to the very end, and then I'm like, oh, that checks, and that checks too. But it did lead to some huge blowback just before he went on CBS, right? And CBS, CNN, MSN, it's as if they like, even Fox News, it's as if they like rounded the wagons, put out the paper, the memo to all the politicians. Here's the three things, and they did. It was like Mockingbird media to the umpteenth degree. And then you had bots came out of nowhere. It's like, oh, thank you, Hickenlooper. Thank you, Adam Schiff, Shifty Shift. Right? It was crazy. But it's been relentless against those people that have stood up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not probably a huge fan of Emerald Robinson, because I'm just not a huge fan. But in other words, I don't watch her or anything like that. I follow her, but I don't watch her show, right?
Okay.
But she has been right about, well, she's definitely been more right than John Solomon. But she's been right, and she put out this right after he had that little soundbite. And let's go and put it up. John Solomon just showed you the entire shell game. The intel agents want you to patch the machines with some software updates. And he promised the CIA and the FBI are going to go back and investigate themselves. Pinky swear. John Solomon credibility is now zero. Now, I had to put up something to say this. I said, well, actually, no, less than zero. Less than zero. John Solomon is as credible as a treasure hunter, sock puppet Jovan, -0. I'm being really diplomatic here.
You're not. No, you're typical Joe Oltmann, and I love you for it. But let me say this. You know who was at Bedminster, I think, in the past 48 hours with Trump? Emerald Robinson.
Yeah.
Mike Lindell. You know who's the beneficiary of this discourse? The guy that had the election stolen from him, Trump. So I mean, I think it's all relative to what perch you're sitting on. But if you're Trump, you like this discourse. You like the fact that, yep, they need to talk about the patches being BS. Yes, we need to talk about the flimsy, going along to get along penchant of conservative ink players that have played it safe. And that's the role that I think we play, which is, if you don't have an agenda to be courted by any of the conservative ink kings, you can just let it rip and tell people, okay, this is BS. I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of the president on how to land the plane with all of the different moving parts and declare victory. And so there might be roles that are being played. One of the things that I've been looking at recently is hat tip to Paul Fleuret, this idea of the Culper ring. The Culper ring was the spy agency that existed during the time of Washington. And in order to land convictions in a compelling way, you're going to need people that are willing to look really, really unpopular, inept, stupid, and dare I say evil, And at a strategic time, they've got to be the ones that are testifying against a Brennan, against an Obama. Because if you don't have that person, you're not going to be able to meet either the burden of proof or the burden of proof needed for history to be satisfied that you carried the day.
Right.
And so John Solomon might be just patriotic enough to look like this guy that's inept to keep dribbling this stuff out for not his own purposes, but the purposes of Donald Trump. And thanks be to God, you've got an Emerald Robinson that's calling out the weaknesses of his advocacy. You've got a Joe Oltmann that's doing it on the other side. And I think after 6 years, look, we've got lots of people. If you want to try to figure out where the American people are, look at the comments, look at the ratio below these posts, and 60, 70, 80% of the comments are in alignment with our talking points. Like this is BS. We've learned enough about the machines that it's ludicrous to think that you can have a software patch that you'd have to do through the internet can fix these black boxes.
So that gets me to, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I thought maybe I'd have a little debate in there about something, but the problem is that it's sound. You know, look.
Well, no, I'll give you your argument against me. Okay, here's the argument. Here's
okay.
the argument. If someone isn't, significant numbers are arrested, gone through trial, and executed, there's no one on planet Earth that's going to look like a bigger fool than me. Like, I concede that. If we don't have accountability, all of this encouragement, at some point, you think I like the sound of my own voice after 6 years trying to keep hope together that we're going to have the happiest of endings. I get it. It's a tremendous risk. I've got so many friends that were strong, ardent Trump supporters until they weren't. And right now, like, I look at their posts and it's 24/7, let's crap on the president. Many people that we share friendships with that are like, nah, Trump's an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's been a problem.
Okay.
It's been a problem because they're like, how do you still support President Trump? I go very easily, actually. Name another person that went through 4 years of persecution, went through that persecution, showed up, had his mugshot taken, and decided, you know what? Not only am I going to just not lay down, but I'm running for president again. then gets shot in the ear. He gets nearly assassinated not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
He still shows up to work every day. Some things that people don't know about President Trump, he still donates his entire salary for being the president. He still does that, does so quietly.
Mm-hmm.
It's not much of a big deal today because it's something he did the first 4 years. And he's the first one to work, last one to leave. He sleeps a couple hours. He's gotten incredible things across the finish line. Incredible things across the finish line. And you bring up stuff such as, there's things I don't agree with. I don't agree with what's going on in Iran, but I also don't have a seat at the table, so I can't see these pieces. I don't like this idea that I have to stay connected to Israel and it gets to pull punches in the country for us.
Yeah.
But I also am willing to concede that it's complicated. It's a complicated relationship.
Well, you've got a great lineup. I think it's under Untamed with Tommy and the people that he rolls out, whether it's Ian Burlingame, whether it's General Blaine Holt, whether it's Susan Kokinda. Look, we have learned at the feet of people that really understand the political dynamics. Yeah. And as resident election experts, I've been able to track what they're saying and going, my goodness, like, we never asked the question of who are they behind it from a financial standpoint. And if you're going to do battle with the election riggers, you have to take away the resources. And so from looking at the phasing of how oil in the Middle East is related to the financing of terrorism, the cartels,
Bank of London,
it's all interconnected. So, I'm getting an education on that, and that's been balm for my soul because it's not something that I profess to be an expert in, but I've been tracking their commentaries like it's just manna from heaven because it makes sense when you actually understand it. And then it helps you appreciate Trump. Because so many people are just sitting there going, "Oh, this guy is just like the wind. We've got the straits. We don't have the straits. We're peace, war, peace, war." And it was actually General Holt that said something that made so much sense to me. He's like, he's effectively shorting the bankers.
Yeah.
What the bankers do is they short the American people through all of their insider trading. It's the first time where Trump is using the bully pulpit to jerk people around, and to his. This is actually
It's a strategy I use.
it's a
by the
reflection
way.
on his humility. Is
Yeah.
he's willing to have people think he's a complete erratic buffoon, but the end result is you've got terrorist proxies that are bleeding $500 million a day. How long can they sustain that? And the answer is not long. And that's allowing him to make these bold proclamations on national TV about the state of our elections and that we're coming for the bad guys. It's allowing the Mark Wayne Mullins to go on there saying, we're going to arrest you and cut your funding. And then you also have the weird stuff with the judiciary, where I hope we didn't, walk past the fact that Amy Coney Barrett went on and testified that, by the way, she lives under constant fear. And now we can make sense of her garbage rulings that she is receiving threats. Like, a lot of this stuff's coming out, and it's going to come back in front of the public very, very soon when we start realizing that there's been massive pressure exerted on even the highest court of the land.
It is when we talk about elections for 6 years, it becomes, people say to me all the time, like, Joe, what are we going to do about these elections? And I'm like, well, we're doing everything we can. And the problem is that there's a lot of scars that go along with fighting this hard for 6 years. Mm-hmm. And so we're quick to, what do you mean? What do you mean you can't pass? Because you're like, we're going backwards. We're going backwards. Why are we going backwards? And then you have the retards on the left that are like, oh, you need to go get help. And they say all this stuff with dog whistles. All they have is innuendo dog whistles, hide behind fake accounts, and do other things that they do. And the measurement by which we get to a place like, are we really making progress? Mm-hmm. Really does come down to two things. One, prayer, like understanding God's got to be involved in this stuff, because I don't see how it'd be held together if he wasn't, right? Mm-hmm. And two, the truth is that thing you can only hold down for so long, and I feel like it's popping up, and you can't get out of it. But I think that what President Trump does in this chaotic moment, by the way, I ascribe to it. Mm-hmm. Like being a negotiator overseas and learning the things that I did, there's opportunity in chaos. I say it for a reason, because I can push. You've seen me do this 100 times.
Yeah,
I will ask questions or I will say something knowing that I will get a response, so that I can come back and then test whether or not they did or didn't know certain things. And then I'm like, okay, that checks. And you're like, dude, what are you doing?
Well, see, but it's all relative to where you are in the soup. And
yeah.
So I get it. Like, for me, I'm a little bit more patient with the things that Trump is doing, because I feel like I understand what he's doing.
Yeah.
But if you're someone that's Joe Oltmann, there's like sitting there going, that's all great, but I want to know some stuff. So I'm going to shake the tree by poking here and poking there. Like, you won't ever hear me like shame Joe on this show saying like, well, why would you do it? I get it. But there are costs to doing that. And as long as you know why you're doing it, great. For me, like, I keep a very, very small circle. I don't play, in the pool with a lot of people that are out there that have got bigger audiences. But I've got my lane, and I'm just looking at the elegance of what Trump's doing with sheer awe and admiration. And this is the most peace, Joe, that I've had this entire journey. It's like I've seen too many things that have lined up that are just virtually impossible to line up to the degree that they have. And we're sitting at a place where either, okay, you're right, he's the Antichrist, or maybe he's the best damn president we've ever had.
He's the best damn president.
And we're going to end up having a very, very happy ending. And even when we get that happy ending, people need to realize that we're the bench, that there's got to be an effort to solidify all of the victories that we're going to have, and make sure that this is a generational victory. And so, like, a lot of the stuff that we're learning, the fact that we haven't been able to just get whatever we want, whenever we want, through our impulses and our anger, has given us a discipline and a discernment that when an 81, 82-year-old president decides to bow out from the stage, you got the next crop of freedom fighters that will look to the lessons that we have learned over 6 years, and we're ready for the battle. We're ready to continue the battle for this nation. And I don't want people to look past that. We've got people whose discernment has gone through the freaking roof because of what we've been through. So I don't think this is a victory where we get to retire when Trump walks out. It's like, okay, reevaluate the team that you've got and who's up next.
So let me, I mean, if I can say this, because I think it's important to say that to temper what you just said, right? So look, I fire out at a lot of different things, mostly because I'm always battle ready. You're always battle ready. But I'm not so sure we get the outcome we think we're going to get. I'm not sure it ends well. But I'm okay however it ends, and that will never influence my thoughts of President Trump. Because frankly, who am I to blame him if something doesn't work out the way it was supposed to work out? We have to take responsibility for the fact that we all play a part in the things that we do. And if you know, you can't lift something if only half of the people are lifting, if it weighs a ton, right? And if you need everybody to lift and only half people lift, and you never get it off the ground. And so I think President Trump is doing what he can. And he got shot in the ear. He said, fight, fight, fight. He could have responded any other way but that. And he chose to come out and say, fight, fight, fight. So I guess I just don't want people to think that everything's going to work out and we're going to get the arrests. I think we will. I pray we will. I have faith that we will. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, God says that he will have his vengeance in this world or the next. So you can't escape
Did God say that, or did Russell Crowe say that?
Russell Crowe. But I mean, but God basically said, if you string together,
vengeance is mine. Right, saith the Lord.
But vengeance is mine. So he didn't say when the vengeance was, though. He didn't say that he's going to take care of it here. He could take care of it anytime he wants to take care of it.
That, depending on your end times
Russell Crowe
eschatology. There's supposedly, if you look at the scriptures, 1,000-year reign of Christ, where I do believe we are going to experience justice in the here and now. I am not one of those guys that likes the idea that we only get justice in the hereafter. I don't like that. And I actually think it offends the notions of what God understands his creation when we groan and we ask for things. I think what the scriptures do is they showcase that what we're going through, there's never really been a period in human history where there hasn't been a battle. And when you open the Psalms, it says that he creates a place for us in the presence of our enemies, not in the absence of our enemies. So even David, he's not, he could pray that you can vanquish my enemies. God doesn't remove them. He's like, I'm going to protect you in the midst of them. And I think that's the best we get from the scriptures.
I agree with that.
From
for sure.
The apostles, from Christ to Judas to the Antichrist, we are always going to be in the presence of our enemies until the perfect comes. And so what I'm saying is we're going to get victories because there are seasons of victory and of justice. Call it Nuremberg 2.0. We're going to get that. And we're going to work towards that. But as soon as we achieve it, evil's still going to be here, right?
Yeah, I mean, Team Evil is always going to be fighting back. I mean, even if you look at the battles that we've won historically in the United States, whether we're talking about slavery or we're talking about, segregation. I mean, there's just a lot of things that have happened in our country where Team Evil right now, has a grip on our education system. It's not like Team Evil hasn't had a grip on things before. They have. They had a grip on segregation. They had a grip on slavery. They had a grip on abortion, even in the 70s, right? So these are wins that they have, and we're able to claw back on those and fight for those clawbacks, right? I think the issue for me is that we at some point have to recognize our part and that there is power in numbers. There's power in people standing up and being resolute in the idea that, hey, I don't have to negotiate with radical evil. I don't have to accept it. I can learn the power of the word no and participate in such a way that President Trump isn't the only one standing up there speaking. And you're going, see, listen to President Trump, right? Yeah. So we can articulate something from an institutionally knowledgeable or academic position and feel like that's okay. It's okay for them to take shots at us rather than this other place that we feel like we're losing because, they say mean things to us.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think my job and your job is going to be unique to you is that I want to recognize the anointing that God has placed on certain men and women for this time and support that anointing. But, I'm a son of this country. I'm a vice regent for the republic that is America. And I've got my own responsibilities to you, my wife, my children, to the state that I live in, to fight for it, to be what I want it to look like. And so, the president's not above, the chatter. We get to bring up our concerns. How else can we do it? We don't have the information that he has. We don't get the debriefs that he gets. But we also have to be cognizant that because he is who he is, he's going to be given debriefs by a bunch of snakes. In fact, part of the D-class was that they were scrubbing and whitewashing all of the nefarious activity of the CCP. So just because your position doesn't mean you're getting great information. You just hope that he's got the discernment to separate the snakes from those that are praying for him.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Well, I want to say this about the patchwork that you said because I think it's important. So Mark did put something up that says you can't patch your way out of communism. I love what he says. This: if you attempt to do so, the citizens will be forced to reformat government and will be a destructive format. Let's please avoid that. and then you agreeing with me, which is I always go to your page when I can to just figure out whether or not you're talking the same language as me. Did put this up. There is no meaningful way to patch the voting machines that are designed to be exploited. If these are the talking points coming from John Solomon and intelligence officials, they are participating in creating a limited hangout. Incorrectly define the problem and providing a solution to it will only perpetuate use of the slave master's primary weapon, proprietary black boxes that cannot be audited. The voting machines, e-poll books, and rig software need to be eliminated.
That's pretty awesome.
I mean, it's a pretty good
that
way.
guy's smart.
He's really, really smart. He's really, really smart. Okay, we're going to take a break for a minute. We're going to kind of regroup and come back. And when we do, we're going to talk about some other stuff. We got some pretty fun stuff to talk about. David, you're here till tomorrow? You've been in Colorado till tomorrow? Am I able to say that?
I'm leaving first thing, like early for DC.
Oh, all right. I'll be in DC tomorrow too. So we'll both be in DC. It's going to be great. We'll take a commercial break. When we come back, we got a bunch of other stuff to talk about, and it never seems to end. And we'll talk about David for a little bit and some of the stuff that's happening around the country. We'll be right back.
Oh, hi. I almost didn't see you there. Welcome to DCF Buns, where you can find the freshest buns in town, if I do say so myself. Oh, our master bakers teach class every week. So whether you're new to baking or trying to improve your culinary skills, we got you covered. And we can help you bake the cake of your dreams. We'll even clean your cake if you want. And if you don't want to bake anything yourself, we have loads of fresh buns available in a variety of shapes and sizes. Check us out at dcfbuns.com to learn more. DCF Buns, we keep the buns hot and the deals hotter. Buns.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
I understand that you and I think every other Democrat oppose this so-called Save America Act, and there's a lot of reasons that you've put forward. But let me ask you very narrowly on the issue of photo ID, requiring photo ID to register to vote. Is this something that Democrats should get behind?
We have very
80-some% of Americans, 71% of Democrats say they favor this.
You know what? In Virginia, we have voter ID and photo ID. I got to show my.
That's actually not the case. I mean, I'm a Virginia voter. You don't need to show a photo ID in Virginia. There are a wide range of things you can show for ID, and if you don't show one of those, you can sign an affidavit saying
sign an
attesting.
affidavit,
But so
comes
it's
back
not
and
required.
those become ballots that, if you want to contest later, can be contested. But you do have a variety of documents. But we have voter ID of one form or another.
But should that be a national standard?
Should it be a national standard? First of all, he got called out because he's a liar. You don't have to have an ID. And by the way, an ID doesn't necessarily mean that you have to prove that you're a citizen. But he walked past something really important. I think it's important for us to point this out. And that is 71% of Democrats, 82% of everyone across the United States want to pass the SAVE Act. They want to take mail-in ballots off the table completely, because that will actually hem up much of the, what would you call it? Circus, dog and pony show, side hustle that happens inside of our elections. And here's David discussing accountability on the Eric Metaxas show. This is something I want to bring up, and then I'll get David's thoughts on David's words. Here we go.
A lot of us that have been in this fight are frustrated because we're still waiting for accountability. But I think the lead from last night was, while China was mentioned many times, that it was the CIA that was ground zero for the allowance of massive fraud, number one. And number two, we need to start looking at the legacy media as co-conspirators. We're talking about sedition and treason. Most experts have been sitting on this information for 6 years. It wasn't really a big surprise, but it was nice to see the commander-in-chief on TV saying out loud what many of us already know.
What do you want to hear, brother? I mean,
it was a great interview, by the way, because I got a chance to listen to the entire thing.
Yeah, I mean, look, even that conversation shows you that whether the captured media wants to or not, the Overton window is moving back towards sanity. The fact that Mark Warner was called out on a leftist network shouldn't be lost on people. So they're trying to recalibrate, reset, and figure out, okay, what is palatable, because right now, whatever's coming out, it's jarring, and every comment under every post, people are telling us that we're absolute corrupt morons.
Right. And
the fact that Mark Warner couldn't just say, actually, I think voter ID is a great idea. Like, pull a John Fetterman. Like, what's the big deal? That would actually make him more dangerous if he would have at least go through some efforts to make himself look reasonable. But the fact that he is digging into such a corrupt practice that's so, it's being demanded by the American people. And that's the other thing about the Save America Act. It's benign. There's nothing in it that's controversial. ID, U.S. citizens only, and curbing the use of mail-in ballots just in line with the original intention. So it's just the military and people that are truly bedridden. And then it's a couple things related to transgender mutilation. Like, none of this is controversial for Democrats, for those that have a pulse and aren't zombies. So it's with that in mind that if they want to keep bringing a Mark Warner out on TV to make a fool of himself, just at some point, you just got to feel the pulse of what's going on.
They're not reading the room very well. Let's put it that way. As far as reading the room,
Well, I think what it is, it's a tacit admission that they cannot win without the rigged systems,
Right.
which is what Trump's saying. And so they look desperate. They look like people without a compass. And I'd like to think that the public can see that.
well, I think they can, but the problem is that you still have people that are using the dog whistles, dog whistle, dog whistle, dog whistle, dog whistle, and I want to take one of these dog whistles. This is Shapiro. Now remember, Shapiro was tied up. He was the AG when someone came in and killed a young lady, stabbed her. She committed suicide, being stabbed I think it was 30 or 40 times. We should grab that story. He was the AG. It was his friend that actually was the husband of the woman that was murdered. And it took almost 11 years for the parents of that woman to now rule it a homicide. By then, the case was long cold. But here's that same Shapiro from Pennsylvania talking about President Trump's election integrity speech. Let's play it.
I don't know. This group probably did. I don't know if you took the time to watch that crazy ass speech the other night. Did you see that? I mean, let me tell you something. This guy is just unhinged. He's just untethered from reality. And he went on national TV in the White House and he insulted the American people's intelligence and he insulted Pennsylvania. He is continuing to attack our elections in Pennsylvania and really across the United States. But we have an opportunity to stand up against that and to protect our democracy. I know people, no matter how unhinged that seemed, I know it left you feeling uneasy and worried and scared. But this is not a moment to retreat and worry. This is a moment to stand tall and fight for what we believe in. And I'll remind you, because I got your back in all this, that back in 2020, when Donald Trump lost the election here in Pennsylvania, he and his enablers went to court and sued me 43 different times. I was the attorney general back then, to try and throw out your votes, to try and thwart the will of the people here in Pennsylvania. But let's remember, he sued us 43 times. Trump went 0-43. I went 43-0, and we defended your right to vote, and we will again.
But he didn't say anything. What did you? By the way, he didn't believe what he just said.
So this is what the communist does. They for affirmation, they refer to a corrupt bottleneck, which was the captured judiciary, and they point to the corrupt levers that were pulled to ensure that not the people's voice was heard. This is all about protecting the deep state, which Shapiro belongs to. That's all that is. You can translate it, look, deep state won. Yeah, Shapiro, you're right. The deep state won in 2020, but doesn't mean that you're standing on solid ground. And Pennsylvania was ground zero for some of the most overt corruption. So we don't need to kind of go through all of the different data points for that, but it's well documented from Jesse Morgan, the guy that drove the truck with hundreds of thousands of pre-filled ballots,
which they said was it was debunked. It was a fallacy that we made up.
Of course, they said that, right? That they have no choice but to say everything's fine, and so nothing's changed. I think what is kind of interesting right now is, again, all of this is very reminiscent of the gaslighting we experienced in 2020. I think that's part of the reason why we get so frustrated, and I think that it's leading the Shapiros into the same false sense of security because, for all intents and purposes, they survived and got what they wanted in 2020. And it's like the same playbook, the same program. Let's run it again. And so again, if you don't have the accountability or the arrests, then I can see why Shapiro is looking like he's feeling pretty confident right now.
Yeah, look, they've been stealing elections for the last couple of years since President Trump's been back in office. They stole down ballot races all the way through 2024. We saw the same thing happen with Kerry Lake in not just Arizona. We saw what happened in Nevada. We saw what happened in Texas. And let's not just say that this is a Dominion problem. The subset or the foundation of the election systems that you have even in Florida are largely fraudulent, right? So we have a problem across the entire country in all 50 states, and they have accelerated the stealing of elections. If you count them across the country, I mean, we're like 2 in 100 in elections in the last nearly 2 years.
I think Trump's like the only one that gets to win.
He's the only one. I mean,
and so I mean, again, this lends credence to the people that think he's the Antichrist in the sense that like we're seeing one guy that's been able to ascend above the deep state's corruption, and it's Trump. And there's a cognitive dissonance that you really have to understand. If he got through and we see the accountability, then it's all worth it. But if we peter out over the next 2 years, and it's like, okay, congratulations, you got your second term, but the problem's even worse because we're in Patchville, and we're using rebranded machines, Liberty Vote, promoted by the Raheem Kassams of the world that are supposed to be MAGA, and you've got the talking points from John Solomon. I can see why people are jaded and they don't have the mental strength to see this through. One thing's for sure, you can't have the presentation or the speech that Trump had without heads rolling effective immediately. It doesn't make sense unless you can follow it up with the goods.
Yeah. But by the way, I want to show you this. This is the one I was talking about. This was the Ellen Greenberg case. And the federal government is now looking into this case. In 2011, Ellen Greenberg was stabbed over 20 times. She was stabbed in the back of the neck. Any number of 6 or 7 of the stab wounds would have been fatal immediately. And she continued to stab herself long after she was dead. Now, the AG, I said with a straight face, the AG at the time was Josh Shapiro. His friend was Sam Greenberg. Ellen Greenberg. Sam Greenberg was the husband of hers. The house was locked. He called someone mysteriously, told them to come over. Then he lied about the circumstances of that. They later said, hey, he lied about this. It was a bloodbath. All of the evidence inside of this was then relooked at in 2019 and 2021 or 2022 and found that, nope, it was definitely a suicide. And now in 2026, obviously the federal prosecutors are looking into it, but the person that is at the middle of that controversy is, again, Josh Shapiro. And he's been in those controversies over and over and over again, almost like a henchman would be.
Well, this highlights how easy it is to be yours truly and Joe Oltmann, because like everyone knows that that's insane to suggest that that's suicide, but you'll have someone like Kyle Clark come on and do a segment and make sure that Joe Oltmann, who is not a suicide expert, who has not been credentialed and certified in suicide, is speaking and engaging in wild conspiracies that somehow Shapiro isn't this just person. I mean, like, it's never been easier to debunk something like that, but that's elections for you. That's J6 for you. Everything, it's like, I feel like we're just hitting home runs out the park, but evil's stuck. So I can't wait till we see a segment. I hope that Kyle Clark actually, highlights that you're not a suicide expert, are you?
No, I'm not.
You never went to school and got a degree in suicide, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay, so how dare you make that outrageous claim on your podcaster?
A MAGA podcaster. Yeah. I mean, they even gave you the MAGA podcaster label.
They did.
I'm thinking to myself, man, I mean, Peter Boyles was he was out meeting with someone, a collector. and they're talking about some of the stuff that we're doing. And she goes, and I guess the wife of his said, Joe Oltmann. What? Why would you be hanging out with Joe Oltmann? He's like, I kind of like the guy. He's a pretty cool guy. No, Kyle Clark says. I thought to myself, this must have been a good conversation. You're gonna lose friends over me.
Yeah.
It is chaotic. It is chaotic. We talk about stolen elections. Mamdani, you think that was a free and fair election?
No. Well, I mean, look, I actually was talking with Father Mahana about this earlier today. And part of the problem with articulating elections is that when people say, well, do you think so-and-so won or lost? The honest answer is, I don't know. And that's a problem. The fact that we have no accuracy where we can with confidence say, because this is the way that what happens is you could say that, well, New York is a leftist, blue, communist, sympathetic city. I don't think it's that. But people can argue from a perception standpoint that because it's New York or because it's California, that you're left in this place where maybe that's plausible. Just like if you're in Texas, if Ted Cruz is on the ballot in a place that's run by Hyder Garcia, right? And someone says, well, you're not suggesting that Ted Cruz didn't win. I don't know. What I'm telling you is that what I know for a fact is that the numbers are they're fictional. It's just perception engineering. So what I know for a fact in New York is that you don't know the vote total. And if you can't, with confidence, know what the vote totals are, then I think we can say that he's illegitimate. Where it shakes out and whether idiots would actually vote for communism. I guess New York, the one thing that I will say though, I've been to places that are referred to as far left. And what I find is that they actually have the most ardent, strongest conservatives there because they've had to fight for every freaking thing that comes their way because of the red tape. So places like California, if you actually go there and visit and talk with entrepreneurs, they're more conservative than anyone that you'll find in Oklahoma because they've been fighting the war for decades. New York has that element to it, but narrative warfare seems to prevail.
Yeah, no, but based on that, so here's my thought on people of New York. Yes, it's blue, but some of the most intelligent people out there are from New York, and they wouldn't vote for a shithole.
No.
Right? And Mamdani didn't offer them anything. He didn't say anything that would have brought hope to a vast majority of the people there that are hardworking individuals. And elections are the way that you can actually temper stupidity, right? We went too far this way because they're Democrat. They're like, all right, we're not voting for that guy. So they had the chance to vote for a guy that they knew was at least sensible. And you could say Cuomo is not sensible. I would say he's a known commodity. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't know if you're going to stay Democrat, right? And yet they overwhelmingly chose Mamdani? I don't believe it.
Well, yeah, then he put out his advertisements where, he's talking about freezing the rent, which is just terrible. It's communism. Also giving mandates on where to adjust your thermostat. So get used to communism, and it's only going to get worse unless, New York is saved. But you can't save a place with rigged elections, at least not in the traditional sense.
Yeah, well, here's a video of, so I guess this is, we call it, you'd expect this to happen in New York when Mamdani becomes the mayor. It's literally on fire. Let's go ahead and play it. And this is a guy, he's carrying gasoline. Yeah.
Guys,
gasoline.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Like,
Oh
keep
my
in mind,
God!
he had to walk the gasoline over.
Get away from there!
And the police are so heavy,
Oh my God, get away
wearing a
from
hijab.
there. No, get away from there!
Now he's throwing stuff at the cops. You can't, boom,
Oh my
tackled,
God.
got him. Maybe got him. Did we get him? Yeah, oh, yep, we got him. Well, they caught the fire starter. Okay, so yesterday, David, I'm bringing this up because if we have time, I want to be able to go through this with you. This is just to give you an idea of how many fires we've had in Colorado, New Mexico, and California, Washington, Oregon this year. It actually is nearly double what it was if you go back to the fires of 2020. Now, here's the interesting part nobody's talking about, but some people are talking about it, and that is the massive number of fires this year that were confirmed to be caused by arsonists. It's nearly 80% of the fires that we have are being caused by arsonists. And I know that you went through this, and just a couple of years ago, you lost your home to fires.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we need to have a broader definition of arson and how it's caused. My personal opinion is that, old school fires are set the way that people have done it for hundreds of years. And what they'll do is they'll send out their little recon planes. And at that point, you better start looking into the idea of direct energy weapons, microwave emitters. And I'm not speaking out of school because I've been in places where I've examined the remains of homes and copper wiring that's encased in an aluminum conduit. Those houses are still standing. Yeah. And a house right next to it that doesn't have the aluminum protection, just has copper wire. Under a microwave, it ignites in seconds. So you start looking at these planes that were, lifted from the National Guard over the years, and they're used to surveil. They have the opportunity to fly over these things, and you can't see how these homes are ignited. But when you go to Maui, when you go to the Palisades, when you go to New Mexico, you see homes that are pancaked in their own footprint, and the grass is still green between them. There's pine needles that are still on the trees. And when you examine the stumps, it's one of the weirdest things. You'll see a charring of the stump only, but not up the tree. So it's as if the water from the root system is boiling and searing the inside of the bark and the tree rings. I got to see this up close in my own home. And so you've got people that are very, very knowledgeable about how fires work. If you own a cabin in the woods and you know when fire season is, like, we understand how fires work. They need oxygen. They go up. They go from tree to tree. You'll have deformities in the homes where part of it's burnt, other parts aren't, because fire is unpredictable. Not when you start looking at this form of arson, which is someone wants to dispossess you of your property, usually in really nice places. In places like California, the only way that you can afford to live in some of those places is if you're grandfathered into some tax benefit to live in a home because your grandmother bought it. If you didn't have that provision, you get to stay there because you can actually afford to live in paradise. Right. Well, guess what they did? They just screwed everyone out of their homes, and then they're in cahoots with the insurance industry that won't give you a policy to rebuild there. So 90% of the people that were burned out where I live, no one's rebuilding there. They can't get favorable insurance terms. And guess what happens? Corporations come in on cents on the dollar, and they collect land that was once pristine. At some point, it's going to grow back. Grass will grow again. They can log the areas. But we're seeing that across the board. So,
well, the insurance companies are forcing people to sell in Maui specifically, in Lahaina. I mean, they're forcing people out, saying, no, you don't have a choice.
They won't even let them visit their property.
They're negotiating with the banks on the ones that are owned, and paying them out. Hey, we're taking your mortgage and we're going to pay you out the $300,000. It basically, and then going to the banks and saying, okay, you're going to settle for 30 cents on the dollar. So there's a lot of really hokey things happening that we never get a chance to go through and never get a chance to see.
Yeah.
It's really a sad case. So here, by the way, I want to see, this is a Twitch influencer at the weekend's College Democrats of America convention. Okay, let's go play it.
The Democrats who compromise, who conciliate, and who betray us. No more to the Democrats who will collaborate and cooperate with the fascists, who will fund ICE, who will fund Israel, who will help poison the planet, who will stiff workers and help bosses. We don't need those Democrats anymore. We are coming. We are on boss. We're on bot. We're unbound. And we will become undeniable.
Well, and if that wasn't enough, just to, okay, do we have any of the videos that I wanted to have a little fun with? Can we have a couple of those, please? Yeah, so David, here's my problem. These people vote. These people vote. I was going to do a whole episode. Do you know when you get like a Instagram, like your algorithm gets out of whack and it's just a bunch of weirdos that put stuff up there that talk to you about their, one of them said that the backside of her was cut off and that someone stuck a microchip up her rear end.
Wonderful.
I was showing it to my wife yesterday. Oh, there's Allie. Just realized I've never seen David not in a sports jacket and dress shirt. Oh, but now you have.
I'm wearing shorts too.
He's wearing they're shorts.
Shorts.
Yeah. It is. It looks like you're hitting the gym. Are you hitting the gym?
Oh, I've always looked this. I just always cover it up, ladies.
Oh, that was a dude.
And then
sorry, he opened the door. I had to walk through it.
Well, hey, beauty deserves an audience, whether it's male or female. I can't control that.
As long as they're not grabbing your ass. I mean, everything else is good, right? So I was gonna. I'll play this. There is a red flag warning across the country. Did you hear about this across the world?
Let's no. I'm
right.
late to the show on this one.
This was just issued yesterday. The United States State Department has issued a red flag warning for all countries around the world, calling and summoning back Americans back to the United States. And the guy that did this said that he's only seen this happen a couple times and not in recent history. Let's go ahead and play it.
Hello, everybody. This is Joshua Doherty, aka Joshua Lloyd Fox. Something happened today I've seen less than a handful of times in 30 years working for the Department of Defense. The State Department issued a worldwide red notice to all U.S. citizens around the world to come home, basically because of the growing tensions between the United States and Iran. Yesterday, President Trump ordered CENTCOM to open the gates of hell against Iran for the loss of 2 U.S. service members in missile strikes in Jordan. And this map, is being circulated in Israeli media right now. The first time I saw it was about 3 days ago. Ben Shapiro posted it, which I don't really believe anything out of him, but this is circulating right now showing a massive ground invasion of Iran where the United States' responsibility is along that southern coastline of the Persian Gulf, or the Gulf of Oman, and that's exactly where we have been pounding for about 2 weeks now. We've been pounding artillery shells in that area. I want you all to remember, I reported back in April and May that the 31st MEU, the 111th MEU, the 81st Airborne are all in theater. There's roughly 50,000 U.S. service members in the Middle East, most of them dedicated to ground invasion assaults. Marine Expeditionary Units, there's 2 of them over there, 5,000 Marines whose sole purpose is ground invasion. Have been over there for 3 months training and getting ready for something. So apparently we're opening up the gates of hell, and the State Department issued a worldwide red notice today. to all U.S. citizens around the world. I've only seen that like 5 times in 30 years of working for the DoD. That was issued just a few minutes ago. Stay tuned. I know U.S. media is not reporting on any of this, and so we're not going to know what's exactly happening or going to happen. But if you watch outside U.S. media sources, Al Jazeera, BBC, some of those others, we might get rumors or hint of rumors about what's happening. So stay tuned. Gates of Hell, red notice, worldwide red notice, just issued by the State Department. In my experience, that's a really big deal. Last time I saw it was right after 9/11. Until next time, I love you all. Joshua Lloyd Fox.
It's kind of a big deal. And no, the media is not talking about it. They're kind of stay as quiet about this as possible. Pretty crazy, huh?
I think it's a good sign.
All right. Can we have something funny just to end it? And then I'll give David the final word. So you guys, can we have, you have something funny? All right, put it up. You got a couple funny ones? All right. Just one, just a teaser. We're going to do a video on just Wattards. Watarded people. Please play it.
After this interaction in Starbucks, there's a man that has taken my satanic plate. I'm missing this much of my body. It's been cut off. Like, they cut me off here. That part of my body is being pushed down, and he is putting needles in it, programming needles, and a T-Mobile chip above the plate. The chip is connected to my testicles, which are in the rear, and then it's going, he's drawing a line to the chip, and then the chip to somebody else's testicle. This is fraud. This is identity theft. This is definitely the guy at T-Mobile I made the complaint about.
And it wasn't a Verizon chip. It was a T-Mobile chip. It was fully T-Mobile. It had to be T-Mobile.
Well, there you have it. Watch out, kids, for the telecommunications service you're going to use.
And I just want, and it's just going to be, it's going to be tied to somebody else's testicle. I just want you to know. now you know what I was watching. I was literally watching it going, this can't be real. But it is. It's so real. These are actual human beings. Anything to do with maybe like 2 dimensions that are colliding together because of the collider thing?
I don't know, but
anything.
This is what I love about Joe. Is he'll put on a video like that, and then he's like, "Dave, would you pray for us?"
Yeah,
it's like let's go to prayer, but it's always after the testicle T-Mobile chip up the butt segment that we take it to the Lord.
I didn't even pick it. I didn't pick David. I did not pick it.
Your producers know you, Joe. Come on now.
That is, you guys set me up. You said I feel set up.
I don't think so.
If the glove don't fit, you gotta quit.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so good to see you.
Good seeing you. I might see you this week. We're going to DC.
Yeah, going to DC. I'll be there tomorrow night. I get it at 11:30, but he's got more important things to do. I'm just going there to cause trouble.
No.
All right, you want to pray us out?
Sure.
All right.
Dear Lord, we thank you for your goodness, that you are faithful, that your character is the same yesterday, today, tomorrow, that you are a good God and you care about justice, you care about mercy. And so, Lord, we just pray that you would continue to move your people in alignment with your character. And we pray for the day in this country where we can say victory. We pray this in your holy name, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, and Roku. Roku. I know for you to say it was broken, it is not broken anymore. It had a glitch. It wasn't a my glitch. It was a Roku glitch. We got some cool things coming up on Amazon. You'll be able to pick us up on Amazon coming up here very shortly. And we'll probably push it out to some of the other stations that people have asked, hey, Joe, I want it on Telegram. I want it on this. I want it on that. We'll be on all those different channels. We're trying to just get the APIs straightened out and get it all done. So, David, I appreciate you coming on. It was awesome to have you. It's always good to have you. And remember to stay frosty. Always look behind you and in front of you, but God. In other words, no matter what you do, even if you play a video about a microchip and testicles, God has a sense of humor. All right. God bless you. We'll see you soon.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fight where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real. No more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Tame nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave